Dawn broke over Buckingham Palace in a pale, silvery light. In the courtyard, ceremonial trumpets sounded in steady rhythm, announcing the start of Queen Camilla's state visit to Scotland. Flags fluttered on gleaming cars, guards stood at full attention, and everything seemed perfectly arranged for a grand royal day. Inside her private study, Camilla sat by an antique wooden desk, reviewing her speech, the first she would deliver as the king's representative. She adjusted the emerald brooch on her coat, her eyes reflecting pride mixed with unease. Never before had she been this close to the throne. But at exactly 7:10 a.m., the rhythm of ceremony came to an abrupt halt. The quiet room was pierced by the sharp ring of the telephone. A royal aide entered, voice trembling. "Your Majesty, the trip to Scotland has been cancelled by direct order of Prince William." In an instant, the palace air froze. No one understood what was happening, only that a single command had overturned the entire order of the day. Whispers filled the corridors. Within minutes, leaks reached the press, and headlines flashed across Britain. Prince William intervenes, halts Queen Camilla's royal representation. A morning that began like any other had suddenly turned into a historic turning point for the royal family. And to understand why the heir to the throne would dare to confront the Queen, one must look back at the days when power within the monarchy began to tremble, from within the very walls of Buckingham Palace. Since King Charles was forced to step back for health reasons, the rhythm of palace life had changed. Each meeting now began not with the king's familiar voice, but with Camilla's calm figure at the head of the table. Beside the silk-draped empty chair, she presided with poise, signing royal documents, receiving ambassadors, and quietly maintaining the machinery of monarchy. Inside circles began calling her by a name both flattering and mocking: the Silent Monarch, a title that sounded regal, yet carried unease. For in the royal family, a single misplaced title can shake the entire institution. William watched it all with a cold, measured gaze. He often showed disapproval, especially when aides began referring to Camilla as Her Majesty in internal correspondence. To him, it was more than formality. It was an overreach. In his eyes, the title of queen belonged only to the woman who had shared his father's coronation, not to the one who had once divided the family. One advisor recalled, William stared at the document for a long moment. Then he simply said, "She is not the king." The chill of that remark lingered in the room long after. To Camilla, however, William was merely an impatient prince. She believed she was keeping the monarchy running in the king's absence, signing papers, greeting diplomats, smiling serenely before cameras, as though everything remained firmly under control. But the more control she tried to assert, the less patience William had. He knew that once Camilla grew comfortable with power, she would never willingly relinquish it. The palace soon divided into two quiet factions, one loyal to the temporary queen, and one waiting for the future king. The marble halls of Buckingham, silent for generations, now echoed with hurried footsteps and suspicious glances. And when the state visit to Scotland, a land steeped in loyalty and memories of Princess Diana, was announced, the tension could no longer be hidden. William knew better than anyone. Scotland never forgot the woman named Spencer. If Camilla arrived there as the king's representative, it would not be diplomacy. It would be a provocation. Scotland, cold and windswept, still burns warmly with memories of Diana. Every year, people quietly lay flowers at Balmoral's gates or beneath her statue in Edinburgh, where she was once greeted by applause and adoration. To them, Diana remains not just a symbol of compassion, but a victim of royal wounds that never healed. And for that reason, any appearance by Camilla there would reopen those wounds. Yet while King Charles continued his recovery at Sandringham, Camilla chose Scotland as the destination for her next state engagement. The plan was ambitious: a speech at St. Giles's Cathedral in Edinburgh, the same place that held the grand memorial for Queen Elizabeth II, followed by visits to the University of Edinburgh and a community health center, projecting an image of a modern, caring queen. Her communications team called it the journey of healing. But within palace walls, many saw it as a test of power, especially in the king's absence. A Clarence house aide later confided, "She said bluntly in the meeting, 'It's time the public sees who truly represents the monarchy.'" A seemingly harmless remark, yet in the current climate, it felt like a dagger to the heart of royal loyalists, and to Prince William most of all, because William knew one truth better than anyone. Scotland is not to be touched lightly. There, Diana remains the people's woman, and Camilla, no matter how much the palace and media tried to cleanse her image, has never been fully accepted. Recent polls confirmed it. Over 60% of Scots still do not see Camilla as a rightful queen. Because of that, when the trip was officially announced, tensions inside Kensington Palace erupted. A source from the Times revealed that William was furious upon learning the visit had been arranged without consulting him. He was informed only through an internal memo, something that, for an heir to the throne, was seen as nothing short of an insult. And then, just 12 hours before Camilla's motorcade was due to depart, a phone call changed everything. The caller was none other than Prince William himself. According to insiders, he had personally contacted the Foreign Office and demanded an immediate suspension of Camilla's entire Scotland itinerary. He did not go through Buckingham Palace. He did not notify Camilla's private secretary. It was a direct order, short, cold, and absolute. The official explanation released later by the Foreign Office read, "His Majesty requires more time to review the royal representation schedule." A polite yet hollow statement. Everyone within palace walls knew it wasn't the king's decision, it was his son's. One royal staff member later recalled, "He said it very clearly, 'We can't let my mother's name be disrespected, Dawn.'" His voice was calm, but his eyes burned with anger that had been buried for years. That single phone call flipped all the entire operation upside down. The motorcade was halted right on the Windsor grounds. The Scottish government was forced to issue an emergency cancellation. The press was blocked from reporting, but inside the royal circle, everyone understood. William had just shut down a trip Camilla had been preparing for months. Camilla, reportedly, was livid. One of her advisors quietly told reporters that she considered William's action a public humiliation. During a closed-door meeting at Clarence House, Camilla allegedly slammed her hand on the table and shouted, voice trembling, "Do they think I'm just Charles's shadow?" From that moment, relations between the two households, Kensington and Clarence House, grew colder than ever. Private secretaries stopped direct communication. Every memo now had to pass through Buckingham Palace for clearance before being forwarded. Some aides began calling it the Palace Cold War. What's remarkable is that William showed no regret. In a later meeting with his advisors, he reportedly said just one sentence, "I won't let my mother be forgotten in the one place she was loved most." Then he fell silent. That sentence spread through palace corridors like a quiet declaration of war. William was ready to fight if he had to. Outside the palace, British media began to ask questions. Why was the Queen's state visit suddenly cancelled? Why was there no official statement from Buckingham? And why had William flown to Sandringham just hours later? Everything pointed to one truth. This wasn't a bureaucratic decision, it was political. Royal experts called it a turning point. "This shows William has started taking the wheel," one analyst said. "He's no longer a passive heir. He's acting like a future king, perhaps even a king already in control." For Camilla, the blow was devastating. She lost face not only in public, but also among her own allies inside the palace. An anonymous courtier remarked she never imagined William would confront her so openly. After that call, Camilla understood her reign was beginning to crumble. But the most unsettling silence came from the king himself. Charles made no comment, no intervention. It's said he read the final report that same evening, then quietly murmured, "Perhaps the boy is right, Beiroti." If true, those words mark something historic. The quiet transfer of power within the British monarchy, a shift not sealed by ceremony, but by a phone call born from loyalty and pain. As one insider told the Daily Mail, it wasn't just a trip being canceled. It was the moment power changed hands. Yet that decision did more than cancel an itinerary. It ignited the embers beneath those still loyal to Camilla. From that point onward, The Royal Cold War was no longer rumor. It had begun. The next morning, Buckingham's gates remained shut. London's sky hung gray, light rain fell, and the motorcade that once waited in the courtyard was gone. No statement was issued, but everyone knew something inside the palace had shattered after William's call. Camilla left early that morning. No royal guards, no ceremonial send-off. She sat in the back seat of a black Range Rover, eyes fixed on the window, her face calm but vacant. Her destination was not Highgrove or Sandringham. It was Mill House in Wiltshire, her private retreat, the same house she once used to hide away when she was Charles's mistress. She still called it my safe ground. A longtime housekeeper told the Telegraph. She didn't say a word, just walked in, closed the door, and turned off her phone. No one heard her voice for hours. In royal circles, that silence spoke louder than any speech. Meanwhile, at Kensington Palace, the atmosphere was completely different. Prince William and Princess Catherine spent the morning with their communications team. According to an internal source, William ordered the drafting of a new royal representation plan, emphasizing the role of key members of the next generation. Everyone knew what that meant. William was quietly reshaping the monarchy, step by step, preparing for a royal image with no place left for Camilla. However, things did not unfold quietly. Inside the palace walls, factions began to emerge. The first was the Loyal to Camilla group, led by Sir Clive Alderton, the king's longtime private secretary. They believed Camilla had every right to represent the monarch while Charles was recovering, and that William's interference was an insult to the very institution of the monarchy. In contrast, the image reform camp, made up of younger Kensington Palace advisors and those who had previously worked with Catherine, stood firmly behind William. To them, the monarchy needed to be rebuilt on the foundation of a new generation, transparent, relatable, and less bound by rigid ceremony. In their eyes, Camilla symbolized the past, the years of scandal and controversy, while Catherine represented the safe future of the British crown. Caught between these two ideologies, the more neutral royals, like Prince Edward and the Duchess of Edinburgh, chose silence. Yet the press quickly noticed that they had canceled a private dinner with Camilla at Windsor, a coincidence too perfect to ignore, or perhaps a discreet way to avoid being drawn into a brewing internal storm. Princess Anne, however, was different. Known for her blunt honesty and long-standing dislike of Camilla, she reportedly said after hearing of William's intervention in the Scotland trip, "Someone without royal blood should not lead national ceremonies." That single sentence traveled through Buckingham's corridors like a gust of cold wind. To Anne, William was not only right, he had done what she had wanted to see for years. Within days, the cracks inside the royal family became so visible that even the media couldn't look away. The Guardian ran a bold headline, "Succession War in the Shadows. William and Camilla clash over the crown." The article detailed a silent power shift, calling William the uncrowned king and Camilla the fading queen in the shadows. Clarence House swiftly denied all rumors of internal conflict, labeling them baseless speculation. But the more they denied, the less the public believed. Camilla's silence, her sudden absence from view, and William's increasing public appearances beside Catherine made it look as though the palace's leading lady had already been replaced. A royal expert told ITV, "Camilla has always stood behind Charles, but this time she faces a generation of heirs who refuse to stay silent. William is acting as the guardian of his mother's legacy, and that makes Camilla the enemy." From then on, the palace became a chessboard of calculated moves. Loyal aides began to choose sides. Secret meetings between William and his younger advisory team took place behind closed doors. Meanwhile, Camilla's circle tried to rebuild her influence through old media allies. A newspaper sympathetic to her published a piece praising her efforts to keep the monarchy steady during the king's recovery. Yet the article backfired spectacularly. Social media was flooded with thousands of comments invoking Diana's name and the word replacement. The more Camilla tried to assert her place, the more isolated she became. Whispers filled the palace halls. that she had cried when the Scotland trip was cancelled, that she threatened to withdraw from future ceremonies, that she felt betrayed by the very family she helped hold together. Meanwhile, William remained silent. No interviews, no statements, only actions. He began assigning Catherine more official duties, public visits, speeches, small domestic tours. The public noticed, and Catherine instantly became the new focal point. Newspapers called her the light in Buckingham's storm. Then came the photograph. William and Catherine with their two children, smiling in Windsor. Just one image, yet it carried a powerful message. The heir's family stands strong. In a time when the monarchy seemed fractured, that picture declared where the real power now lay. Back at Mill House, Camilla still hadn't reappeared. Sources claim she spent her days in her study, staring out at the mist-covered garden, the same retreat that once hid her during her affair with Charles. A close friend revealed, she said only one thing: if they think I'll stay silent forever, they're mistaken. That single line sent chills through royal circles. Everyone knew one thing: when Camilla returns, she won't return quietly. Behind closed doors and growing whispers, William made a decision that shook the entire monarchy once more. A decision that would not only redefine Camilla's place, but also reshape the future of the British throne. Wind swept across the Scottish Highlands, curling around the ancient stone walls of Balmoral Castle. That morning, as the royal gates opened, crowds were already gathered along the roadside. They weren't waiting for a king or an heir. They were waiting for a woman, one the nation thought they might never see in public again. A black car rolled to a slow stop before the steps. The door opened. Catherine stepped out, wearing a navy blue coat, elegant yet understated. Her chestnut hair moved gently in the breeze, her face thinner than before, but her eyes burned with quiet strength. She smiled softly and waved. That simple gesture was enough to ignite the crowd. People cheered, some wept. Others shouted, "God bless the princess!" For the first time after months of treatment, Catherine appeared again. But this time, it was different. She wasn't just a royal, she was a symbol of resilience, compassion, and a quiet power that had begun to take shape behind the once closed palace doors. The British press erupted. The Times wrote, "In a navy coat, Catherine stepped out of the pew amid the cold Scottish wind, her eyes steady, her voice soft yet resolute." The Daily Mail called her the Queen of Hearts reborn. The phrase sent chills across the nation. For Queen of Hearts was once the title given to Princess Diana, the late mother-in-law whom Catherine had always quietly revered. Among the crowd that day, a little girl stepped forward, trembling as she handed Catherine a small bouquet of white flowers, the kind the British call Diana's bloom, a symbol of pure love. Catherine bent down, accepted them gently, and whispered, "Thank you for such a beautiful gift." No one could tell if she was holding back tears, but everyone felt it. In that fleeting moment, Diana's spirit seemed to be there, watching, protecting the daughter-in-law destined to finish what she could not. While the country was swept up in Catherine's return, Queen Camilla was quietly removed from sight. Sources confirmed that she had been instructed to rest at Mill House for at least 10 days, staying away from any public events. The official reason was health, but everyone knew it was a move, a deliberate clearing of the stage for Catherine. It was William's idea. Instead of delegating duties to other royals, he handed the entire royal schedule for the next 2 weeks to Catherine. A bold, unprecedented decision. One that spoke not only of absolute trust, but also of a quiet political statement. This woman, and only this woman, is the future of the Windsor dynasty. At first, royal advisors objected. They argued Catherine wasn't fully recovered, that her sudden return might spark mixed reactions. But William brushed them aside. The monarchy must be led by kindness, not titles. He said, when the line was quoted in the media, it ignited a firestorm of admiration. Because everyone knew kindness symbolized Diana, and titles represented everything Camilla was clinging to. Social media exploded. Diana has returned in Catherine's form. William is rewriting history. This is the age of compassion, not counterfeit power. Over the following days, Catherine made a series of public appearances across Scotland and northern England, visiting hospitals, schools, and military bases. Everywhere she went, she carried herself with calm determination. Gone was the shy daughter-in-law. In her place stood a leader in her own right. A military officer who met her remarked, "The princess has a way of speaking that makes you feel heard. She doesn't say much, but every word carries weight." The press added, "It's the same quality Britain once saw in Diana, and now it's alive again in Catherine." But beneath the admiration, unease rippled through the palace. A royal insider revealed, Camilla feels pushed out. She never expected William to defend Catherine so openly. Some claim she called the king to express her anger. Yet Charles, worn down by illness and crisis, responded only with silence. The more silent he became, the colder Camilla felt. Meanwhile, Catherine continued to rise, each appearance leaving a mark, each gesture dissected by the media. Even the sapphire ring on her finger, once Diana's, regained its power as a national symbol. People called it the circle of destiny, from the mother lost to tragedy, to the daughter-in-law now carrying that unfinished legacy. On the 10th day, William and Catherine appeared together at a military event. They stood side by side, exchanging a look both tender and unyielding. When asked about the monarchy's future, William said slowly, "We must return to the values that made Britain beloved: kindness, compassion, and faith." Once again, the public understood this wasn't just morality, it was defiance. As applause thundered, Catherine stood still, her gaze lifted toward the gray sky. For a brief moment, her lips tightened, as if holding back emotion. Some said she was thinking of Diana. Others believed she realized she was now at the heart of a new battle, one between two generations of royal women, where kindness itself had become the sharpest weapon of all. Outside, the media buzzed with speculation. Was this the monarchy's new strategy? To push Catherine into the spotlight while isolating Camilla? Analysts suggested William was quietly preparing for a transition of power. Because in the eyes of the public, Catherine had already become the uncrowned queen, the embodiment of modern British grace. As night fell over Balmoral, the palace lights stayed on. It was said Catherine worked late, reading reports, reviewing charity proposals, and overseeing upcoming tours. She didn't give interviews. She didn't seek attention. But every move reflected precision and control. A photograph soon went viral. Catherine sitting by a window, a cup of tea in hand, light falling gently across her face, her faint smile, her distant gaze. One comment read, "Behind that calm expression lies a strategy that could reshape the royal order forever." Because now, Catherine is no longer just the prince's wife. She is a symbol, the hope of a nation, and the nightmare of those who once tried to erase her. In the cold Scottish wind that morning, a new royal era began, the era of Catherine. ChatGPT and I. In the weeks leading up to Queen Camilla's cancelled tour of Scotland, the British media hailed it as a strategic move to reinforce the monarchy's image while King Charles was recovering. But behind those polite headlines, an undercurrent of tension was quietly rising, and no one sensed it more clearly than Prince William. According to an exclusive report from The Telegraph, just days before the final decision, a confidential briefing landed on William's desk. It contained data compiled by the palace's communications advisors, figures that would chill anyone within Buckingham's walls. Public support for Queen Camilla in Scotland had plummeted to just 11%, the lowest since her coronation. Meanwhile, over 68% of respondents said they preferred William and Catherine to represent the royal family in official engagements. At the bottom of the report, the advisors left a brief note. If Camilla travels to Scotland, the backlash could spiral out of control. Her presence risks reigniting memories of Princess Diana, and once again, grief may turn into fury. William read those numbers over and over in silence. He knew Scotland was no ordinary destination. It was once a land of loyalty and a place where, Year after year, people still lay white flowers beneath Diana's smiling photograph. Sources say that, reading the report, William didn't sign anything immediately. He folded the paper neatly, left his office, and drove toward Windsor. That night, at precisely 11, he stopped outside St. Mary's Church, the same chapel that once held a private memorial for his mother. A local parish worker later told the Daily Express he came alone, no security, no staff. He stood there for a long time, head slightly bowed. The candlelight from inside the church fell across his face, tense, but calm. Then he turned away and left without a word. By morning, the official order was signed. Just one crisp line: suspend the Scotland tour until further notice by the Prince of Wales. No explanation, no comment. When the news spread, Buckingham fell eerily silent. Camilla's aides stopped talking. Her closest staff avoided eye contact. Meanwhile, one of William's assistants quietly told the press, he doesn't want to hurt anyone, but some things must end. If she goes to Scotland, Diana's name will be trampled all over again. With that decision, William didn't just cancel a royal tour, he dismantled Camilla's quiet grip on power. Once seen as the palace's stabilizing force while the king was ill, she now found her influence fading with a single phone call from her stepson. Political commentators quickly called it the real moment of power transfer, not through a crown, but through public trust. Because in a monarchy built on faith, the one who holds the people's hearts holds the true power. A close source to William revealed, he understands that the throne today cannot survive without empathy. The public no longer believes in titles. They believe in sincerity. And he knows only one person truly represents that: Catherine. So immediately after signing the order, William handed the entire royal schedule to his wife. The decision stunned the palace, but to William it was inevitable. In his eyes, Catherine wasn't just his partner. She was the living embodiment of the compassion Diana once stood for. The British press called it the son's silent retaliation. In his own quiet way, William achieved what his mother never could, restoring moral authority to those who lead with heart, not status. In Edinburgh, people gathered outside Holyrood Palace, carrying pictures of Diana and bunches of white flowers. One elderly woman told the BBC, if the princess were alive, she'd be proud. Her son's grown up, not through power, but through courage. And from that moment, observers knew Camilla's influence was waning. Her loyal advisors went silent. Meetings at Clarence House grew sparse, while the Kensington office, home to William and Catherine, was more active than ever. A royal expert told The Guardian, this isn't just symbolic. It shows Prince William stepping into real authority, not as heir apparent, but as a monarch in waiting who already commands the stage. He doesn't need a crown to be king. Inside the palace, some even compared William's move to Queen Elizabeth II's historic decision forcing Edward VIII to abdicate. Both acts were quiet, but both changed royal history forever. And this time, the one rewriting that history was Diana's son, the boy who once stood beside her coffin in 1997, wide-eyed and broken. 28 years later, that same boy now stands firm. William doesn't need revenge. A single, well-timed act says everything. And all of Britain understands the message he's sending. The monarchy can err, but it can also redeem itself. It can lose the people's trust, but it can win it back through kindness and integrity. From the Washington Post to Le Figaro, international headlines praised William's restraint, calling him the son who fulfilled Diana's unfinished mission. The Independent closed its feature with a line that moved millions to tears. On a rainy night in Edinburgh, the people saw Diana's reflection, not in memory, but in her son's eyes. The monarchy they once loved is being reborn, in a new form. And perhaps, somewhere beyond the London clouds, Diana smiles because her justice, though delayed, has finally arrived. Outside the palace gates, Catherine greeted the crowd with her serene smile and calm gaze. In that moment, not just Britain, but the entire world saw the image of a future queen, a woman who brings warmth and faith to a fractured crown. Meanwhile, behind the gates of Ray Mill House in Wiltshire, Camilla remained silent. No appearances, no statements, just stillness, as all eyes turned to William and Catherine. Perhaps everyone already knew. The quiet transition had begun. William and Catherine are no longer merely the heirs to the throne. They are the new symbols of the British monarchy, a dynasty reborn from the trust of its people. That evening, the BBC closed its broadcast with one haunting line. A tour was cancelled, but a new era has begun. And perhaps, when William signed that order, he wasn't just protecting the crown's image, he was protecting his mother's legacy, the woman who taught him that true strength lies in compassion. Now tell us, what do you think? If you believe Catherine embodies kindness and grace, press 1. If you believe Camilla deserves her place for her resilience and perseverance, press 2. Who would you choose?